Did you just lose another parlay? Are you sad? Maybe a bit lonely? Are you sitting on a beanbag chair naked eating Cheetos? We've all been there. I'm about to show you some people who are all on the edge of glory, winning all of their legs of their parlay until the saddest thing happened. One of their picks lost and all their hopes and dreams came tumbling down with it. This is a show dedicated to all the people who are one leg short of hitting their parlay. Let's get into it.
Welcome to one of Parlay's One Leg Short, where everybody was one leg short of being on the leaderboard this week. Coming in at number 5, we have user Daddy Greg. What a name. Daddy Greg had Jose Aldo winning in his return to the octagon. He had the Cavs beating the Orlando Magic. Magic couldn't pull off anything on that one. And the game ending with under 196 points. Moving over to the Timberwolves versus Nuggets game, he had under 4.5 rebounds for Jamal Murray, who typically averages about 4.1 rebounds per game. He only ended with 1 for him. The under total points with 207.5, and the game ending with a close 205. What a play. Lastly, Daddy Greg had the betting favorites Denver beating the Timberwolves. With it such a close game the entire game, coming down to the clutch in the fourth, the Timberwolves ended up pulling off the win, losing his last leg. If this would have hit, Daddy Greg would have ended up on 5th on the leaderboard this week. Unfortunately, he was one leg short. Moving on to number 4, we have user Ron Sirleone. With a little mix of different games, starting with such an exciting series, the New York Knicks versus the 76ers, he correctly predicted the 76ers to beat the Knicks in Game 5. This was such a close game going into overtime, with the 76ers ending up pulling it off over the New York Knicks, but we can't say the same about the entire series. In the same game, he had an easy under 7.5 points for Kyle Lowry, who ended up with only 0 points for the game, playing 25 minutes. How do you do that? Moving over to the Cavaliers Magic game, he had another close game, but the Cavs winning by only 1 point. This was a bad game for the Mavs that even Evan Mobley only had 11 points. Lastly, we're talking about the Pacers-Bucks game where he had Obi Toppin under 8.5 points. I personally could never say I was betting on Obi Toppin. I mean, I kind of forgot he was even on the Pacers sometimes. Coming off a great year though, Obi Toppin ended up busting that for him with 12. So close to hitting that one. If everything would have hit for Ron, he would have been on first for this week's leaderboard. Unfortunately, he was one leg short. Coming in at number 3, we have user X613M271. He came in this week with a full Saturday UFC 301 prelim parlay. Starting off, he had the under 2.5 rounds for Kevin Boras versus Alexandro Costa. For the same fight, he had Costa winning. With both of these hitting, Costas won by a KO in round 2. He had the exact same bet on the Vince Pichel fight versus Ismail Bonfirm, having Bonfirm to win in the over 2.5 rounds correctly predicted for those as well, as Bonfirm won by decision after the 3rd round. He also predicted Marcelo Ruffy to beat Jamie Malarkey and hit on that, as Ruffy was looking amazing out there with some sweeping leg kicks and some amazing throws as well. Going into the last fight on this card, he correctly predicted Barbosa to beat Kiriachi. Unfortunately, he didn't think it was going to go to decision as it did. Barbosa ended up winning by decision, knocking off his last leg of this parlay. If everything would have hit, he would have ended up on 5th on the leaderboard this week, and unfortunately, he was one leg short. Coming in next at number 2, we have user Nick Bellatani, having a Timberwolves Nuggets same game parlay and a Cavs Magic same game parlay. Starting with the Cavs Magic game, he had the Donovan Mitchell over 27.5 points when he ended with a huge 39 points with the game, as well as Paolo Banchero to have over 23.5, who also had a huge 38-point game. Great performances by those guys in that game. Now moving over to game 1 of the Timberwolves versus Nuggets. He had Anthony Edwards to have over 27.5 points, and he ended with 43 points in this amazing victory by the Timberwolves to beat the Nuggets in game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. He also played over 8.5 points for Naz Reid, as well as his under 0.5 blocks. Naz Reid has been playing great offensively lately, so that doesn't surprise me that hits. I am a little surprised on that under 0.5 blocks didn't hit, as Naz Reid has been very active on defensive late as well. Going on to the next leg, this one doesn't really surprise me that it hit, is under 0.5 blocks for Mike Conley, as Mike Conley isn't known to be blocking at all. Nick must have not have thought Karl Anthony Towns was going to be having a good game, as he went under his 8.5 points, and Karl Anthony Towns ended up with a solid 20. If everything would have hit for Nick, he would have ended up on 2nd on the leaderboard this week. Unfortunately, he was one leg short. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have a user that was on pace to have our biggest parlay to date. That user is Ty Law 8. With a full Clippers Mavericks parlay, he had the Mavericks beating the Clippers as they did with a commanding 13-point victory, as well as the over 206 points with the game ending at 215. He also had Kyrie's over 24.5 points where he ended with 30 for the game. Kyrie has been on fire this playoffs, playing perfectly along with Luka and the rest of the Mavericks team. He loved his assist rebounds bets, betting on the over 19.5 for Luka, 13.5 for James Harden, 10.5 for Paul George, and 9.5 for Kyrie, hitting on all of those. Amazing work by Ty Law 8. Lastly, having a James Harden over 19.5 points in the game, he ended with a crushing 16. So close for Ty Law 8. That was so impressive to look at. If everything would have hit for Ty Law, he would have been at 117.87 points, putting him as the clear winner of this week with the biggest parlay we would have seen today. I'll look forward to seeing whoever can come up with something like this and hit and win for the week. But unfortunately, it wasn't Ty Law 8 because he was one leg short. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode of Wanna Parlay One Leg Short. If you have a parlay that'd like to be featured on One Leg Short that was one leg from hitting, please feel free to submit it in our socials. That'll be in the description, and good luck in the future.